What's up, Hananya? How you doing, man?
Doing great, Mike. Good to see you again.
Good to see you too.
Right.
And we're in Kenmore Square, Boston. You got the Boston Strong sign right behind you.
Yes, we
You see
do.
the Prudential Building, and you know you are training for the Boston Marathon.
Yes, I am.
And tell us a little bit about that journey, why you're doing it. As I read a little bit on
Facebook.
your Facebook page about how when you came here from Haiti, that was a place that accepted you and provided you with care in high school.
Yeah,
The Boston Medical Center.
absolutely. So I'm running this year's marathon. This is going to be my second race. I'm doing it for Boston Medical Center. Is the charity that I'm running for 2 years in a row. And the reason why I pick BMC, not only do I work there as a nurse, but I recall about 20 years ago when I moved to Boston from Haiti, as a young 15-year-old, who spoke no English, was kind of like wide-eyed, new to a whole new country, a new culture, and trying to find my route, find my footing in a brand new country. And my parents didn't know really much, and they had to get my immunization record together to apply for high school. And a family friend directed them to go to BMC, like, oh, just take them to BMC. I was uninsured, I was new to the country, and I just recall how relieved that I was to step foot at a medical institution where they were so welcoming, and they knew exactly the kind of immunization that I needed, and people who there were other people of Haitian descent, who looked like me. So it felt like home. And over the years, I actually, after I graduated high school, I had an accident where I suffered a concussion, and then the ambulance, people who were there called ambulance, and the ambulance took me to a different local hospital. And I always recall one of the nurses asking, when she found out that I was not insured, and she asked me, why did they bring them here? Why didn't they bring him to BMC? So it kind of struck home with me, and it resonated with me how BMC always, I guess it had a reputation as being like a refuge for the outcasts, so to speak, or the underserved. And I always said to myself, when I had the opportunity to give back, to pay it forward, and it just happened that I ended up going into the nursing field, and I worked as a nurse for 10 years before I applied at BMC, and I've been working there for 2 years, and then it kind of coincided with a new passion that I found for running, and I never imagined that I would be at a level where I could, complete a full marathon. But then when I found out that BMC has a team, a running team, and they've been doing the Boston Marathon for several years, I just felt a motivation to do it. So it gave me the opportunity to kind of take this passion of mine for running into a different level. At the same time, I get to fundraise and contribute to BMC's mission to continue to serve the urban, population of Boston, and deliver care in an ethical manner, top quality care without any exception to whoever walked through their doors. So it's been nothing but an honor to have the chance to give back to BMC and to welcome my friends and anybody who might be interested, who might be curious into joining me in that journey to support BMC on their mission. Right now they have a campaign called Mission 2030, and to put it vaguely, it's their goal is to make Boston the most urban city in the world. I mean, the healthiest urban city in the world, and that means taking different certain initiatives that requires thinking outside of the box. You know, where they have to really tackle certain social determinants that affect the well-being of the urban population of Boston. So they try to, you know, go and tackle the root causes. You know, some of them that are deeply rooted in poverty and underrepresentation. You know, homelessness, hunger. You know, drug use, undertreated mental health issues. So they taking creative measures to not just tackle the acute, you know, the acute issues like the crisis, but to think, you know, what's really causing those chronic issues to malign the residents of this Commonwealth.
So it's kind of an amazing, you know, full circle story where, you know, you came here from Haiti to Boston. Boston Medical Center helped you, and regardless of your social, you know, status, your social economic status, and that was something that stood out to you, that you always wanted to pay that back. You always wanted to do something because you felt really appreciative of what they did. And now you're actually working for Boston Medical Center.
Yeah. It's I guess you put it very succinctly. It is a full circle story where they took me in. I was a benefactor of that culture of delivering exceptional care without exception 20 years ago, and now where that allowed me to go to school and earn an education and become a registered nurse, and now I get to be part of the BMC staff and continue to pay it forward and deliver the same kind of care that I received 20 years ago to others who are coming in. And I think it's something very crucial, you know, like Boston is an like port city. It's a city like the last few years we can see like the demographic of the city is changing. A lot of people are, you know, from different avenues or different backgrounds are coming into the city of Boston, and it's very crucial from a public health standpoint. And I think it's even magnified, you know, in this very moment as the crisis of the coronavirus is spreading, where you want everyone to have access to quality health care. You know, we don't want anybody to be harboring any sort of, you know, agent, and that the healthcare system doesn't know about it, where people can go unknowingly be infected and spreading and being a carrier of something where they can get anybody, all of us, you know, are vulnerable to it and can become sick. And for one of the factors being the fact that they are not able to afford care, or they are afraid to come forward, or they don't feel welcome, it's putting the rest of us, you know, at risk. So I think that's a model of care that's kind of very part of the fabric of the culture at BMC, where everyone, despite no matter where they may fall in the social strata, has a place where they can go in with whatever disease they are maligned by, and that they will receive some of the best care in the world that this city, is famous for.
Right, absolutely. And talk a little bit about the actual, what's required for people that don't know, that have never run a Boston Marathon. What's required to qualify? What's required with regard to fundraising? All the benchmarks you have to hit.
Yeah. So Boston Marathon being one of the most iconic races. This year is gonna be the 124th. So it's one of the oldest races, well renowned, where people around the world are vying to participate in it. So it's one of the toughest one to qualify for. So you can qualify to run it as a, we call it BQ, like as a athlete, where it's by brackets, by age groups, and some of the requirements varies depending of your age group. But even if you actually meet the time, you may not get selected, because only around 31,000 people are gonna run. So, and you have hundreds and hundreds of thousands who are applying. So another avenue is to run as a charity runner. As a charity runner, at most charities are require for you to fundraise. And right now at BMC, I have to raise a minimum of 6,000. But they require that I set my goal at 12,000. They expect everybody to raise, 12,000.
Right.
But at the very least, if I don't raise 6,000, the rest will come out of my own pocket. So that's one of the most stressful aspect of it.
Right.
On top of the dedication that it takes to get physically, to get your body and your mind ready.
Absolutely.
For one of the most grueling, 26.2 miles that you can imagine. So for the physical training part of it, I'm working with a very famous trainer,
Okay.
John Fury, that BMC that works with BMC runners and other charity runners as well. And it's very apropos that we are here right now, because at least every Saturdays, this is when I do my long runs.
Yep.
And we will actually take off from here, from Kenmore Square. And that's one, I guess, home field advantage we have, being a Boston resident. We get to train on the marathon course itself.
Okay.
So we will start from Kenmore, and depending on your level, your fitness level, we will do a long run from 10 to 20 miles on every Saturday. Sometimes we will start from Riverside Station and run back to Kenmore, or we'll start at Kenmore and go toward Riverside Station, which is about 10 miles, and then turn around, and which is a great thing, because you get to get familiarized with the course, and especially some of the toughest stretch of the marathon course itself, or famously known as Heartbreak Hill. Which is a series of three and a half, hills that, after covering 16 miles coming from Hopkinton, once you get to after Wellesley, that's when you feel like you want to quit. I did it last year. That was my very first time, my very first marathon ever. And I gotta tell you, after getting by New and Wellesley Hospital, and you make that right turn on of Washington to Comm Ave, and you start hitting the elevated part of the course, and your body is just crying to you to just quit.
Right.
You know, and so yeah, having the opportunity to train and practice there, it's a very beneficial.
And you're putting, this is such a commitment, such a level of dedication, because as you mentioned, I mean, you've been running all year, right, in preparation, every 3 months, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I was never a runner prior to that. I was battling some health issues of my own, and I was looking, you know, to kind of take my physical well-being more seriously. And a colleague of mine, a fellow nurse, who was like a mom and working mom, and she was in school, and she told me she's doing a half marathon through the Boston Athletic Association. She's training for a half. And I recall at the time, it sounded like somebody told me they were training to climb Mount Everest. You know, like 13.1 mile. Like, where do you find, you know, the energy, the stamina to even, like, how crazy must you be to to run for that long?
Yeah.
And it sounded like such a challenge to me, and I thought it over, and that was, I think, around June. So I went online and signed up for it as well. And I kind of like threw myself into it, and I hired a trainer, and I started running. I felt like passing out after my first lap around of track because I was out of shape and my cholesterol was high. I was not in best shape, and it kind of like highlighted, you know, it was like it put a spotlight on where I really was and where in comparison to what I was aiming for, where I wanted to go. And of course, through hard work, you see incremental, improvement. And I just wanted more and more and longer distance. And I kind of like what most runners will tell you, like you kind of got bitten by that bug. And since then, that was about 3 years ago, you know, I was able to do that half marathon in less than 2 hours, and I couldn't believe it. Like I got such an endorphin rush out of it, you know, and not only the benefits it contributed to my health, but also mentally, you know, how to overcome, basically to get the chance to exceed your own expectations sometimes,
right.
And to really stick with it when it's cold and raining and it's, you know, the last thing you really want to do, or you just, you know, the lactic acid is building in your legs and you feel like you're running through cement, and to really develop the mental endurance, for lack of a better word, you know, and find a reason to keep pushing, to keep putting one foot in front of another, which is very metaphoric, you know, very synonymous to life, you know, any other, you know, walk of life. That's what it's really all about when things get tough. So like running became, you know, a release for me, you know, a way that it's very therapeutic, and it provided me with like a space where I can escape sometimes, or I can immerse myself in, you know, whatever that might be facing, whatever challenges.
Yeah.
So, and it provided you join a community of other runners.
Yeah.
And people who are dealing with the same things, who are either internal or external, and the miles became shorter when you're doing it with other people who've earned your respect and you've befriended, and it becomes more like a joyful affair as opposed to something that's painful.
And I would be remiss if I didn't mention we're looking at the Boston Strong sign. The
Right.
Boston Marathon has always been an important event, a very special event, a historic event for the city of Boston and for the world, and an opportunity to raise a lot of money for great causes and charitable endeavors. But then, of course, we had the incident of terrorism a few years ago, and so it took on a whole new meaning, and so it's extra special, I would say, even from that point on. Can you talk a little bit about that? Does that factor into your thinking of this?
Well, definitely. Well, it's funny. I recall watching the Boston Marathon for the first time, like live, where I came, to cheer on people. I think it was around 2005, and I said to myself, I would like to run this race before I turn 30. And of course, I was never, like I said, I was never really into running much, but it felt like like taking part of history, like something bigger than you, something so iconic, something so historical, and to see people like the atmosphere at that time, being among the spectators, cheering on someone who looked like they may not be having the best day,
Yeah.
They've just run 20 or whatever, how far along, they are on the race. But to see the city coming together,
Yeah.
it's almost like it makes Boston feels like a small neighborhood almost, and people coming in and cheering on perfect strangers.
Mm-hmm.
And I always wanted to take a part in that. And of course, when the tragedy happened, the way it happened and all the dynamics to it was so tragic and so painful. But if there was any measure of comfort or any kind of something inspiration, I mean, there was a lot of inspiration, but of course we don't wish for something like that to happen, to be reminded of it, but to see how we are all interconnected.
Yeah.
And I recall, during the as it was taking place, we know what was going on during the whole chaos, how it felt like we were all really one true community. We're all in it together, and also showed the resilience of the city, and how everybody was so supportive of one another, and even afterward, like some of the stories of the people who were victimized by it physically and emotionally. I mean, we all were kind of scarred by it, but it did not deter us. If anything, it only renewed our commitment to continue to be a Commonwealth. And yes, that only added extra motivation for me to fulfill that goal, from 2005 to participate in this race as a runner. But again, running was never really something that I practiced much until about 3 years ago, and it still felt like an unreachable goal. But it's been so gratifying to see, with hard work, and if you are willing to really push yourself and even set your goal even higher than you've ever imagined, you could achieve, how it's so possible, how you can end up exceeding your goal. That's where really the magic happened. And it's been some of the most enjoyable, like the day of the race itself.
Yeah.
That's one thing that I learned last year. the race day became more like a celebration of all the so many numerous hours you spent,
Right.
you know, stretching and doing core exercises and cross training and, you know, doing yoga or massaging, foam rolling, and trying to make sure you eat the right thing and hydrating. All that, you know, the hours it took of dedication and sacrifice to get prepared for this. And it's, you almost feel like the city come out to celebrate that hard work, you know. It's like a big coronation,
Yeah.
you know, coming, people cheering you on, and to not make it cliches, you know, it's really truly been about the journey,
Yeah.
you know, all the hours after work where you really too fatigued and you're tired and it's dark outside, but you still find it's in you. You still find a group of friends and you go out there and run hills together and run through the snow and run through the rain, and to get a chance to relive those, you know, those are the things that kind of like keep fueling you to keep pushing and keep putting one foot in front of another. And before you know it, you're making that famous left turn on Boston Street, and you're gunning for that finish line, you know. And really, that's really what to me, that's what Boston Strong represents. It's perseverance, it's hard work. You know, we're New England people. You know, we're hardworking people. We blue collar, and but we've learned the value of caring for one another. You know, of being there for one another, of picking each other up. You know, and that's what this whole journey has exemplified to me.
Well said. You know, one last thing, or one thing I wanted to, when you were talking, it kind of reminded me of our previous conversation. You know, we were having lunch and talking about how, you know, the world just lost Kobe Bryant and what a loss that was and what an inspiration he was to so many people on so many different levels. But it sounded, has he been an inspiration to you even in this as well?
Absolutely. It's definitely, and that's like the Mamba mentality. But it's I think anybody who've ever tried to undertake anything that's challenging can find inspiration in Kobe's athletic journey, the story of his life, and through his speeches and the interviews that he's given. I remember, I think it was his retirement ceremony where he wanted to, and you can tell he was trying to use that moment as a teachable moment for his daughters, and to remind them, you know, he was addressing his daughters directly, and he said that if I do one thing, you know, I'm paraphrasing, but he said if I do one thing right as a parent, if anything that I want to do right, get right as a parent, is to teach you that it's really about the journey. You know, it's about the hours, the sacrifices that you put in, you know, when you don't want to, when you don't feel like you can, when you are alone, when you know, like the aches, the back aches, the knees, the thighs, the cramps, you know, and you wake up early in the morning and you're stiff and you just wanna, you know, have a late morning and go back to sleep. But if you find yourself still getting up and still putting yourself out there, you're still trying, that in itself is the reward. That's the prize. And that's something that really struck home with me, and I've always kind of been ruminating ever since his retirement, I think 3 or 4 years ago, if not longer, that to have that mindset, you know, not the prize is not the medal, it's not crossing the finish line, It's not even marathon day itself. You know, it's the continual pursuit of self-improvement, or whatever walks of life, whatever, profession you're in, whatever, you're trying to be a better parent, whatever you're trying to improve, being a better parent, being a better nurse, being a better brother, whatever skill you're trying to perfect, the reward, the ultimate goal shouldn't be some kind of award or some, the recognition or the adulation of other people. It's to really immerse yourself, to embrace every moment, every aspect of it, and find joy. Find joy in every aspect of it. The pleasant and not so pleasant, the painful and, the sweat and the tears and the blood, as much as to have 1 million people come out and cheer you on and hand you a cup of water or a cup of Gatorade and telling you to keep pushing. If you find yourself still picking yourself back up and trying it again and trying to get better at it, when everything in you want you to quit or feel like it's an insurmountable odds, are against you, the odds are stacked against you, but you still pushing, you are already a winner. You are already a champion. And it's so powerful to think of these words after the tragedy that happened of a month ago, the tragic passing of Kobe. It made sense because tomorrow is not a guarantee, for any of us. We don't know how much time we have. So we must really be mindful, be present, and fully be engaged in every moment and not waste time and not feel defeated and not quit, and really try to find reason to embrace everything that life throws at us. The tears, the failures, the shortcomings, and to look at them differently, to have like a, different perspectives about life, and
count it all joy.
Absolutely. And it makes it more comforting, to know that it is a blessing to have the opportunity to try. It is a blessing to have the opportunity to feel, whatever the feeling may be, to have the opportunity to apply ourselves, and every day, every sunrise is a blank canvas to try to paint a better picture than we did yesterday or the minute before. Maybe we should try to do this interview again, and we'll and we're trying to perfect it, but really enjoying it, enjoying the pressures and the things that make you feel uncomfortable.
Right.
And that's one thing about Kobe. Like you can tell he put himself in uncomfortable positions.
Yep.
This is a guy who he didn't even go to college. And he was out there writing books.
Yeah.
You don't get to do that unless you are willing to expose yourself to what's uncomfortable, to challenge yourself, to try to perfect your weaknesses, to be conscious of them and methodically, systematically focus on improving them, you know. And you can tell, like, people who spoken about him and people who he inspired, he surrounded himself. Kobe surrounded himself with the people he was trying to be. It's like he surrounded himself with the men he was trying to become, the men and women he was trying to become. People he identified has the talent or has something to contribute, or he, you know, who are already have achieved the things he's trying to achieve, who are, you know, champions of whatever challenge he was, you know, facing, whatever you know, new goals or whatever he was aspiring to become.
Yep.
Like, he surrounded himself with people who are already of that life.
Absolutely.
And found inspiration in them, and in doing so he inspired himself. You know, we ended up inspiring each other.
Absolutely. Awesome, and I think you said it perfectly. I mean, extremely well said. And is there anything else you wanted to say?
Absolutely. I mean, I will invite whoever might be watching this to you know, go log on beliefrunners.com. It's a fundraising event that's taking place not too far from here, near Fenway at Game On actually 2 weeks from now, on March 21st, from 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. 15 of us, charity runners, we organizing a fundraising event, and there will be auctions, you know, opportunities for people to win some very cool prizes, from tickets to Red Sox games, Bruins games, Celtics games, 2 tickets to concerts, you know, gift cards to restaurants, you know, and you know, signed memorabilia from local sports heroes. So it's gonna be an epic event, and we're gonna have a DJ and refreshments, and it'll also be an opportunity to contribute to some very noble causes, like my own, which is to support Boston Medical Center, and so that they can continue to provide exceptional care to some of the most vulnerable among us.
Awesome, man. We wish you the best of luck. Congratulations on the journey so far, and I'll have all the links and all the information online. So thank you for sharing your journey with us.
Thank you for doing this, and it's been so cool to do this with you. I appreciate it.
Man.
All right.
All right.
Thanks.